Before discussing the non-dual understanding, let's do a little review on what the definition of reality is. From the viewpoint of Advaita, reality, or what is real, has to meet three criteria. It has to be permanent, which means it can't come in and out of existence. It doesn't fluctuate or move in any sort of way. And number two, it has to exist and know that it exists. And number three is it has to shine by its own light, meaning that there's nothing prior to it that gives it its energy to work, you could say, to shine. So it has to be self-illuminating. So keep these three in mind as we discuss what is real in the non-dual understanding. The non-dual understanding could be considered the mechanism of the one reality. And because we're always discussing the ego and the self, we have to discuss how these two viewpoints understand this mechanism. So the Godhead understanding of this whole message goes like this. From the ego's point of view, there is two viewpoints. There is what it considers real, which is the manifestation, and which it considers unreal, which is consciousness. Now, the reason why the ego considers the manifestation as real is because it only knows objects. It only knows things that it can wrap its finite head around, its arms around, and know it and label it and call it its own. So that goes for every object in the manifestation, from thoughts and memories and ideas in our mind to feelings, sensations, emotions in our body, and anything that our five senses, our perceptions, can detect in this world. And it can get its finite arms around any of those and label them and know them, right? An ego is the knower that knows things or objects, and so it knows all of these things. Why does it consider consciousness as unreal? Because it does not have the capacity to get its arms wide enough, its finite arms wide enough, around the infinite to know the infinite, label it, and call it its own. And therefore, because it can't do that, it says that consciousness is unreal. Yet, we are conscious right at this very moment. We are aware permanently. And so there is a conflict here. And in this conflict is suffering. It's the separation of objects, because the body's an object, the ego's an object, because it considers itself contained in here somewhere, and every other thing is an object as well, and there's separation there. And in that sense of separation, suffering arises, the sense of lack, the sense of discontent, and all of the other descriptions that come along with that. So from the self's point of view, there is only one reality. And this one reality is consciousness or awareness. And this one reality, this one substance of consciousness or awareness, is either in two forms. It's either in the infinite form of its true self, or it's in a collapsed finite form of itself, which is the manifestation. And it does not know any difference between those two. There aren't two. There is only the one substance appearing as the many in the world, or a direct experience of its true self. And in this experience of only knowing the one reality of itself, in either form, the infinite or the finite, it has no sense of separation. And what that means is that there is no sense of suffering, because there's only wholeness here. There's oneness, and within that, there's completeness, and there's no negative senses within that. Self has no idea what separation is or what suffering is. So as you come home to yourself to experience what is real, because self is permanent, self knows itself, it exists and it knows it exists, and it shines by its own light, it meets the three criteria of real. When it comes home to itself via self-inquiry, it experiences the wholeness of the one reality. Even though, as it peers out only into itself. It does not see the world. Ramana Maharshi has a wonderful quote on this, of course. It says, "When the world appears to be real to the ego, the self, i.e. consciousness, does not appear. And when the self appears, the world, i.e. the manifestation, does not appear." So when you are perceiving this understanding from the ego, the world is here. The world of objects, the world of other is here. But when you come home via self-inquiry and rest in yourself, the world is no longer the world. It is nothing other than yourself appearing as the world. So let's review. From the ego's point of view, it sees reality from two viewpoints, which is what creates its suffering. These two viewpoints are the manifestation is real. All of these physical objects within the world are what's real. And it views consciousness, the one reality, as unreal. Where from the self's point of view, there is only one reality, which that one reality is awareness, is consciousness. And if you view it as my two hands being the one reality of consciousness, it's either in this infinite form, or it's collapsed down into the world that is happening in front of us. But it never separates itself from itself. It's always in one or two forms of the one infinite consciousness of reality. So, when you come home to self, via self-inquiry, you come home to this reality, the one appearing as the world here and as the infinite here, but never becoming separate. This is this separation, this is the world of ego. When these two are connected, this is the world of self.